Okay, let's just dive right in. We are starting this deep dive literally in the middle of the action, high above this uh, churning Black Pacific Ocean.
Right in the thick of it. It's August 1st, 2005, and you've got 40 of the absolute best Special Forces soldiers the U.S. has, and they're doing a halo insertion, high altitude, low opening.
And this isn't just, a standard jump. This is extreme.
Oh, it's absolutely off the charts. We're talking a jump from 37,000 feet, that's the thin air zone. They're free falling at terminal velocity, and here's the kicker. They're dropping straight into a massive 5-alarm ocean storm.
So the weather itself should be the main enemy, right?
It should be. But you can tell right away, from the chaos, the weird mix of units, the secrecy, it tells you immediately the storm is just cover. The real threat is already waiting for them on the ground.
That is the perfect high-stakes hook. And you feel that tension right from the get-go in the source material. You got this bizarre deployment. Marines, SEALs, Airborne, Delta Force, all jumbled together.
Which never happens.
Exactly. And they're targeting this secret, unmapped little piece of land known only as Hell Island.
So our mission today is to really dissect this whole operation, because it goes from a recon mission to a high casualty survival horror story that uncovers this terrifying military experiment.
Right. We need to get into the tech, the strategy, and the absolutely extreme counter-tactics that were needed just to survive an enemy that was designed for pure lethality.
And to do that, we have to start with the location itself. The history of this place is critical to what happens later.
Hell Island.
Hell Island. It's way out there, about 1,000 kilometers south of the Bering Strait. Originally, its name was Grant Island.
And it earned the nickname Hell Island the hard way back in World War II. We're talking 1943.
Yeah, the sources call it a suicidal Japanese garrison. The fighting was just legendary for its brutality. Think Iwo Jima, but on a smaller, more concentrated scale.
And the cost was just immense. The U.S. lost 800 Marines just to take a tiny airfield on the island.
It was so brutal, so costly, that after they secured it, the U.S. did something pretty extraordinary. They just wiped it off all public maps.
Gone.
It ceased to exist to the world. It became this top-secret staging post. And that brutal history, the blood spilled there, that's why the name stuck. It's a place built to keep secrets.
And you mentioned its history is important. That's not just color, right? It's a key plot point. This piece of 1943 history becomes a weapon in 2005.
It's the ultimate checkmate. But before we get there, let's look at what they're actually jumping toward. The target. The aircraft carrier USS Nimitz.
CVN-68.
Yep. The Nimitz is moored right off the island, and its status is so important to this whole setup. It was the oldest carrier in its class, literally on its way home to be decommissioned.
So it's basically a floating museum at this point.
Pretty much. Which explains the crew situation. Instead of a full complement of, 6,000 people?
Yeah, around that.
It was running on a skeleton crew of just 500.
And it only had 2 escort cruisers, which, right away, that's a huge red flag. Why send 40 of the most elite, most expensive soldiers in the world to check on a half-empty carrier that's about to be retired?
Exactly. The official story they were given, the pretext, was that the Nimitz lost contact after a huge tsunami hit the area. And to make it sound more urgent, they threw in a sighting of a North Korean nuclear sub nearby.
But the whole thing just smells like a setup. A diversion.
It really does. I mean, let's just pause on that tsunami claim. A massive tsunami coming from the north in the mid-Pacific.
Geographically, it makes no sense.
It's absurd, and the source material points this out. It's one of the first things that made the commanders on the ground suspicious. The whole intelligence package was just designed to justify a fast, off-the-books deployment under the cover of a crisis.
Get the troops in fast, no questions asked.
Exactly.
And the man leading the Marine contingent here, our central figure for this whole deep dive, is Captain Shane M. Schofield. Call sign, Scarecrow.
Schofield is a really interesting character. It's not just his reputation, it's the scars. The source describes these really hideous vertical scars that slice right down across his eyes. That's where he gets the call sign.
And his big strength is pattern recognition.
Yeah.
He has this almost intuitive ability to see an enemy's strategy before it fully plays out.
A skill that will literally be the only thing that keeps him and his team alive.
But there's a huge shadow hanging over him. He's just come back from 4 months of stress leave.
And that wasn't a vacation. It was after a mission went south and people close to him were captured and executed. The trauma is profound.
So his own men are doubting him. Is he stable? Is he fit for command? Or is he a time bomb?
And on top of that personal baggage, he has this immediate professional skepticism about the mission itself. The moment he sees the manifest, Marines, SEALs, Airborne, Delta all thrown together, he knows something is wrong.
Because in special ops, you just don't do that.
You don't. They have different training, different comms, different protocols. Mixing them is a recipe for disaster. It felt like an exercise, a test, but they were carrying live ammo.
And that suspicion immediately affects his command decisions. It shows how sharp he is, despite everything he's been through.
Totally. As they're descending, the Delta leader, a guy named Flash Gordon, tries to pull rank over the radio.
Right, he demands a full report.
And Schofield's response is, well, it's not just insubordinate, it's tactically brilliant. He immediately orders his team to switch to their shortwave UHF channel.
A much weaker signal, harder to track.
And then orders total radio silence on their main gear. That one order right there is the first move in a chess game that decides everything.
Okay, let's dig into that. Why was radio silence so critical? What did Schofield suspect that the others didn't?
Schofield knew about a huge vulnerability in U.S. tech at the time. The standard American tactical radio, the ANPRC 119, was great, but when it was transmitting, it gave off a signature.
A digital fingerprint.
Exactly. And there was this French-made decoder, the Signet 5, that had been sold to a lot of, let's say, non-allied nations, and its entire purpose was to hunt for the signal from the ANPRC 119.
So every time they keyed the mic, they were basically sending up a flare that said, "Here I am, come get me."
You got it. It's a digital homing beacon. By going silent, Schofield immediately neutralized his team's biggest vulnerability. The other teams, the SEALs and Airborne, who kept chattering, they basically painted a giant target on themselves.
And that decision ultimately sealed their fate.
It did.
So they land, middle of this crazy storm. The carrier deck, what do they find?
The scene on the flight deck of the Nimitz is just deeply unsettling. It's completely empty, deserted.
Silent, except for the storm.
But there are signs of violence everywhere. These star-shaped blood splatters all over the deck on the parked Tomcats, the Hornets. But the really weird thing, the thing that tells you something is fundamentally wrong, there are no bodies.
A massive fight happened, a slaughter, but someone, or something, cleaned up.
Meticulously, which suggests a deliberate effort to hide the fact that the entire 500-person crew was just gone.
Schofield and his team, including his gunnery sergeant, Gina Mother Newman, they head for the control tower, the island.
And the evidence there is even more extreme. The main door is just covered in blood and, as Mother puts it, about 1 million bullet holes. Every single antenna and radar dish on top of the tower has been smashed to bits.
And inside, on the bridge,
Thousands of spent shell casings all over the floor. It was a vicious, long firefight. But again, Mother confirms it was all cleaned up afterward. And it's here that Schofield finds the first really crucial, non-human clue.
the rifle.
The rifle. He finds an abandoned M4 standard issue, but it's been modified. The trigger guard has been stretched out, elongated.
To fit a finger that's much larger than a human's.
Exactly. It's the first hint that the enemy is biologically unusual, but still using human technology.
And Mother, she notices something about the blood patterns, right?
Sure. Yeah, she sees that some of the splatters aren't from bullets. They're thicker, more like arterial flow. She realizes some of the victims must have had entire limbs cut off.
So this is way beyond a normal firefight. This is a desecration, something primal.
And just as they're processing this physical horror, Mother's technical expertise kicks in. She finds a massive power drain coming from the ship's reactor, grid 14.2.
And it's not going somewhere on the ship.
No, it's being siphoned off to an external location somewhere on the island itself, which confirms the whole operation is centered on the island, not the ship.
The island is the command center.
Or the lab. And then she finds the signal, the thing that proves Schofield was right about radio silence. She fires up the ship's spectrum analyzer and finds this weird internal radio transmission.
The modem sound.
Literally, she said it sounded like an old dial-up modem, a digital binary beep sequence.
Wow. A sound from the 90s being used as an encrypted military signal.
And Schofield knows instantly this has to be the enemy's comms network. This is the signal they have to avoid, or jam. It confirms they're up against something sophisticated, not just a bunch of raging animals.
And while all this is still just a theory, they get the first report from the SEAL team, Gator, down in the main hangar bay.
And the hangar itself is weird. It's been turned into an indoor battlefield. There are actual trenches dug into the floor, a field tower. It looks like a training ground.
But then comes Gator's transmission.
Yeah. The shocking discovery. The SEAL leader comes on the radio and says, I have a visual on at least 200 pairs of hands, all stacked up in a neat pile down here.
Oh my God, 200 pairs of human hands, not bodies, just hands, neatly stacked.
It's the moment of pure existential dread. This isn't a battle, it's a ritual, it's systematic.
And then the ambush hits.
Right then, the SEALs are hit by enemies using those same modified M4s. The last thing they hear is gunfire, screaming that the enemy just keep coming, and then this horrible guttural grunting sound and a full-on animal roar that just blows out the radio mic.
The threat is confirmed. Non-human. Organized. Heavily armed.
Meanwhile, the airborne team, Condor, keeps breaking radio silence, trying to call the SEALs, and every time they do, Mother sees that binary beep signal spike on her screen.
So they're just leading the enemy right to them.
Schofield knows it. He activates the ship's old security system, these infrared motion sensors, and gets a wireframe view of the ship. And what they see is just a river.
A river of red dots.
A veritable river of red dots pouring out of the hangar bay, heading straight for the airborne team. They estimate around 400 of them, moving incredibly fast.
It's a swarm.
But then Mother spots something else. A smaller group, maybe 40 red dots, breaks off from the main swarm and starts heading back towards the hangar, right towards them.
This is the first real proof of strategy. They're not just a mindless horde. They're using flanking maneuvers.
They're tactical. And as this is happening, Schofield manages to blow the captain's safe and get the ship's air tasking orders, the ATOs, the official paperwork. And that's when they find the name.
Project Stormtrooper.
The ATOs lay it all out. The Nimitz went to Okinawa, picked up 600 regular Marines, and dropped them off at Hell Island. Then, its next mission was to pick up a DARPA science team, led by a Dr. Malcolm Knox, head of Special Warfare Division.
And the project name. Project Stormtrooper. Security classification. Top Secret 2X.
It sounds like something from a nightmare.
It really does. Which brings us to the core of this whole thing. The anatomy of the enemy. Schofield gets the story from a terrified scientist they find hiding in an observation tower, a guy named Zach Pennebaker.
And Pennebaker just spills everything. He says Stormtrooper started as the same old military dream. The human super soldier.
Right, using go drugs, biomechanics.
And brain chip grafting.
But the human trials were a disaster.
A complete failure. The chips made the soldiers unstable. The human mind, it has too much fear, too much conscience, too much independence. It just couldn't be controlled reliably.
So they needed a new biological template, something strong, durable, but with none of the human baggage.
Precisely. They moved on to African mountain gorillas. They chose them specifically because they are, quote, twice as strong as human beings. They were the perfect biological chassis for the technology. Expendable, powerful, and a blank slate.
So let's talk about the tech, the brain chip.
Yeah.
How did it work?
It was this semi-organic microchip that they surgically attached right to the brain. And it didn't just, amp up aggression. It allowed for direct external control. An operator could send a signal to the chip.
And what was its main function?
According to Pennebaker, its primary function was to remove ineffective emotions like fear. And in its place, install total, unquestioning obedience.
Which created what they called the ultimate frontline trooper.
Lethal, remorseless, obedient, and this is the chilling part, totally expendable.
And this is where the cold, hard economic reason comes in.
Yeah, Pennebaker says it outright. The government would save billions in veteran entitlements alone. His words were, no more one-legged veterans protesting in D.C.
Wow, so this wasn't just about military superiority, it was about cost cutting. It was about removing the messy, expensive human element from war.
It's the most ruthless kind of military logic you can imagine. Veterans are a long-term liability financially and politically. So the solution is to create a fighting force with no rights, no conscience, and no retirement plan.
And the first test of this new force
Was against those 600 Marines they dropped off from Okinawa. The result, 500 guerrillas completely annihilated the entire Marine unit.
How? I mean, beyond just the strength.
It was the chip. Removing fear meant they just never stopped. They advanced without taking a single step backward, literally climbing over piles of their own dead to get to the enemy. There's no self-preservation instinct to get in the way of the order.
This perfect system obviously failed. It broke. How did these perfectly obedient soldiers run amok?
The project went off the rails when the apes started showing signs of independent, strategic thinking. The chip took away fear, but it seemed to supercharge their tactical intelligence.
So they started killing their own wounded.
Right. Which is a cold, calculated move to conserve resources, not something they were programmed to do. And then came the trophy taking, cutting off the hands and stacking them up.
That's fascinating. The control system removed human emotions,
Yeah.
but it unlocked this kind of pure, brutal intelligence,
Yeah.
a strategy of terror.
And then, eventually, they turned on their creators, the DARPA scientists themselves. Pennebaker warns Schofield that these things can stay awake for 96 hours straight. You can't outlast them. And they have the Signet 5 locators and surgically implanted headsets for constant command reception.
And right as he's saying all this, the ambush happens.
It does. A huge black ape bursts out of a cabinet, fully kitted out in Kevlar and a helmet, holding a K-bar knife. It kills 2 Marines instantly.
And then Astro, the youngest Marine, shouts the warning. They're not coming in via the catwalk. They're coming at you from across the ceiling.
And that's the moment Schofield realizes he's fighting in 3 dimensions. The apes are using the network of pipes on the hangar ceiling, moving faster up there than a person could run on the floor below.
They're being swarmed from every possible angle.
They're completely outmaneuvered. And seeing this overwhelming, tactically brilliant assault, it triggers something in Schofield's mind.
The pattern. This is the single most important moment in this whole deep dive.
It's everything. It's the key that unlocks the whole puzzle. Schofield realizes that the tactics the apes are using, the same tactics that wiped out the SEALs and Airborne, have a very specific, very human signature.
It's a funneling strategy.
A classic funneling and containment strategy. Using a smaller force, the 48s coming at them, to push them, to drive them towards the main overwhelming force of 350 waiting in the next hangar.
And that strategy is the calling card of one man, Captain William Buck Broyles.
Schofield's old rival from a Special Forces exercise the year before. The aha moment isn't just that the apes are smart, it's that a human is commanding them. And that human is Buck Broyles.
So this whole thing isn't just a random animal rampage. It's a calculated trap set by a human commander who knows exactly how Schofield thinks.
Exactly. During that exercise, Broyles beat everyone easily, but Schofield fought him to a draw just by evading him for 41 hours. Schofield didn't win by outfighting Broyles, he won by outthinking him, by spotting his patterns.
And now he has to do it again, but for real.
The whole fight shifts. It's no longer man versus monster, it's Schofield versus Broyles. It's a chess match.
The second assault is just brutal. Mother Newman gets into this hand-to-hand fight with one of the apes.
And the strength difference is just insane. The ape is about to crush her head, but she, with incredible thinking under pressure, manages to jam a live grenade into its mouth and roll away.
And the head just explodes.
It proves that you can't just wound these things, you have to completely destroy them.
The team is forced to retreat, now down to just 6 of them. They run to the door of the forward hangar, but Mother freezes.
Because through that door are the 350 other guerrillas, fresh from wiping out the Airborne team. They're standing in the kill box. The trap is sprung.
Broyles' signature funneling tactic, complete.
And Schofield just turns his team right back around. His logic is cold and perfect. We've got a better chance against this group than that one.
So they charge back at the smaller group of 20.
And he uses the rolling leapfrog formation. It's pure Special Forces teamwork. One Marine fires, drops, the next one hurdles them and fires. Constant suppressive fire. And it works. They take down all 20.
But the main force of 350 is coming. They break down the door.
So the team flees again, this time towards the exterior elevator, their only escape route. And then they see it start to rise, cutting them off. Broyles is one step ahead.
With nowhere left to run, Schofield improvises. He goes for the 5-ton troop transport trucks.
This is where his counter tactics just go to a whole new level. He and another Marine, Bigfoot, jump in a truck and drive it straight into the horde of apes.
And the apes just swarm it.
They're all over it. 25 of them, ripping off the doors, climbing on the hood. Schofield and Bigfoot are literally shooting them across the cab of the truck.
He can't get to the ramp, so he steers for the edge.
He does. In this incredible move, he and Bigfoot just bail out of the moving truck, and its momentum carries it, and all 25 apes clinging to it right off the edge of the elevator and into the ocean.
It's an act of tactical suicide. And it works because the apes, with no fear, just can't comprehend it.
But the rest of the apes adapt. They swarm an F-14 Tomcat parked on the elevator. One of them gets in the tow vehicle and starts pushing the jet toward the edge,
Trapping Schofield and Bigfoot inside.
So they do the only thing they can. They eject. They trade a multi-million-dollar fighter jet for their lives, rocketing out as the plane tumbles into the sea.
And then comes the most audacious move of all. the helicopter bomb.
Schofield glides back down to the flight deck, sees this massive CH-53 Super Stallion helicopter.
I have to ask, can you even launch a helicopter from a carrier catapult? That sounds insane.
You can't. Not really. That's the point. It's about pure destructive velocity. He lands, gets in the chopper, and hooks its tie-down chain to catapult number 1. Then he opens the rear ramp.
Like an invitation.
And the apes take it. About 100 of them are pursuing him, and they see the ramp open and just storm inside.
Waits until about 50 are in, closes the ramp, and tells Bigfoot to hit the launch button.
The Super Stallion is shot down the deck at 160 kilometers per hour. It just disintegrates as it goes, then launches off the bow like a missile. Schofield bails out at the last second.
And the chopper, with 50 trapped, screaming apes inside, crashes into the ocean and sinks.
The results are just staggering. In a few minutes, through pure, aggressive improvisation, Schofield takes out nearly 90 apes. He completely changed the odds by turning the environment against them.
Having bought some time, he leads the survivors underwater to a secret submarine docking port called Casper's Door.
Right. And now there are 5 of them left. Schofield, Mother, Sanchez, Bigfoot, and Astro. This is where they regroup for the final act.
And inside the group, there's still doubt. Sanchez is wishing he was with Broyles.
But Mother and Bigfoot have his back. They know his real weapon is spotting the Buck's moves. Schofield declares the exercise is still on, and he knows Broyles and the controllers have to be on the island because of that power drain Mother found. It's time to set the final trap.
And the trap relies on that 1943 history. They find old Japanese maps of the tunnel network under the island.
And they find the location of the deep underground ammunition chambers, and Schofield remembers the island's secret weapon.
The Japanese suicide plan.
A massive flooding system. If the island was about to be taken, the last officers would lure the Americans into the lowest chamber, seal the doors, and then open 2 huge ocean floodgates, drowning everyone.
So Schofield's plan is to use a 60-year-old hydraulic trap against a 21st century bioengineered army.
It's brilliant. The plan is set. They become the bait. Schofield deliberately breaks radio silence, calling for Delta, knowing the ape's Signet 5 receivers will lock right onto his signal.
And it works. A howl comes from the Nimitz, and the remaining 300 apes swarm off the carrier and into the tunnels.
They lead them on a chase through these old concrete tunnels, firing behind them, heading for the lowest point, ammunition chamber number 2.
Which is filled with an artificial mountain of old, highly explosive crates.
It's the perfect hill box. Schofield and Mother climb the mountain of crates, drawing all 300 apes into the chamber. The apes don't fire their guns. Their programming must warn them about the explosives, so they start climbing, ready for hand-to-hand.
And just as they reach the top, Schofield and Mother swing across the ceiling on chains, drop down by the door, and aim their guns. The trap is sprung. But before they can fire,
a voice comes over the loudspeakers, "Captain Schofield, don't!" And instantly the entire ape army just stops. They sit down, totally obedient.
the controller was watching.
And then he appears. Dr. Malcolm Knox, Captain Broyles, and the 10-man Delta team step out of an elevator.
And Knox just lays it all out. The whole thing. The deaths of the 800 Marines, the SEALs, the airborne. It was all just the final test for Project Stormtroopers. The Marines were just live bait.
Guinea pigs to test the apes against an unpredictable, pattern-breaking opponent like Schofield.
But as Knox is monologuing, Schofield notices the small detail that changes everything. The key to their survival.
The silver disc, it's on Knox's ID badge. And on Broyles and the Delta teams. And Schofield realizes instantly what it is.
It's the receiver for that binary beep signal. It's a safety device. It marks the wearer as friendly to the ape's control chip.
It's the key to the whole control system. And Knox, dismissing Schofield, tells Broyles and Gordon to escort them out. The order is clear. Kill them.
But as the Delta team surrounds them, Schofield whispers one final order to Mother.
"Mother, still got your ASS-9 there. Jam radios, all channels now."
The ACS-9, the spectrum analyzer she'd been using to track the signal.
It also had a jamming function. This is the technological checkmate.
So what does jamming all channels do to the silver disc?
The disc needs a clean, specific frequency to receive that safe signal. By jamming all channels, Mother just floods the entire spectrum with white noise. The binary beat signal is instantly corrupted and neutralized. The silver discs become useless pieces of metal.
And the apes.
The apes awaken. Freed from the control signal, all 300 of them revert to their independent, remorseless state, and they turn on the closest targets, their creators.
Dr. Knox is the first to go.
Annihilated in what the source calls a bloody mess. The DARPA scientists are next. It's the ultimate Frankenstein moment. the creation turning on its master the second the leash is cut.
And in the chaos, the Delta team is caught completely off guard.
And Schofield yells, "Marines, 2 hands, now!" And his team, each holding 2 weapons, just eliminates the distracted Delta team in seconds. The only one left standing is a shock-frozen Buck Broyles, watching his perfect plan dissolve into bloody chaos.
Schofield shoves past him, climbs a ladder, and aims his pistol at a small lever on the huge circular door at the base of the elevator shaft.
The final move, the 1943 checkmate.
He fires, hits the lever, and activates the Japanese floodgate system. A massive, deafening wall of ocean water slams into the chamber, sweeping Broyles away and drowning the entire 300-strong ape army.
The 5 Marines scramble up the ladder, racing the rising water, with the last 4 surviving apes right behind them.
And just as they get to the top, an ape grabs Schofield's ankle.
And Mother performs one last act of heroism. She hangs upside down from the closing grate and blasts the ape off his foot just before they seal it shut. The water rushes up, pinning the last 4 apes to the grate below them, and then it's over.
5 survivors.
4 hours later, an Air Force C-17 lands, expecting to pick up DARPA, Delta, and their mysterious cargo. All they find are 5 exhausted Marines on the tarmac.
And Schofield's final report is just perfect.
There's no cargo, not anymore.
This whole deep dive is just such a potent, terrifying look at military R&D when it's completely detached from ethics. They created the perfect soldier, but they failed because they couldn't control it.
And Schofield's survival, it all hinged on his refusal to fight on their terms. He didn't win by being stronger. He won by outthinking the human, Broyles, who was behind the machines. His real strength was seeing the pattern, not the monster.
It's this amazing intersection of, bleeding-edge technology, the radio jammer, and 70-year-old historical knowledge, the floodgates, ingenuity and history versus brute force.
And I think for you listening to this, the takeaway is that when you're facing some complex, overwhelming situation, look for the underlying pattern. Look for the human factor. Schofield's ability to see Broyles' tactics, even when they were being executed by bioengineered apes, that's what let him flip the entire script.
And it leaves you with this final provocative thought. The creators of Project Stormtroopers thought they were saving future soldiers by making an expendable, controllable force. But the second it escaped their control, it destroyed them. So it raises the question, in a world of increasingly complex military tech that relies on remote control, is the biggest weakness the weapon itself? Or is it the inherent fallibility of the human mind when it's given that kind of absolute power?